Hey everybody, this is John, your host on Mgtow is Freedom. I'm wearing a costume. We're doing a 50s dress up because we've got cruises going on, lots of functions, car shows. It's that time of year, so here we are in 50s get up. From the pack of Marlboros, which I don't smoke, to the t-shirt and the black jeans and the boots. Anyways, I wish you guys a good summer here and a good weekend. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to read, got a letter from Pete, and then I have concern from Greg. Two guys that have contacted me and had some information they thought would be useful for me to share. Anyways, I'll start with Pete. And Pete, thank you very much, brother. He writes, "Dear John," and I'm going to take excerpts out of this. "I'll try to keep this short even though I have a lot to say. I have been a fan of your channel for quite some time now and enjoy watching every day. I have been Mgtow my whole life pretty much, and while it doesn't come out with struggles, your channel and others have helped me find purpose in life." What I find interesting about that is I get a lot of comments about that. Pete and many others say, it's purpose. Mgtow channels help men find purpose. I myself, as I move from being a father to not, and single, I think about purpose. What am I going to do? What's my purpose in life? And that I think is a big trick that feminism and our society, our culture has played on this, and that our purpose is to take care of a woman. Right from the time she's young, trying to help her grow up, till she gets to her midlife crisis and hope you can get through that. Then after that, she really starts to fall apart, and you got to fucking pay for that medically and psychologically. That's our purpose. But that is what we are tricked into believing. Yeah, that's our purpose, is to facilitate a woman's life so that she has it easy. That is the trick we've got to get away from up here. And being Mgtow is thinking about it. What's your purpose? I've got my own plans for life. I know what my purpose is going to be. And a little bit of Indiana Jones and a couple other action heroes in there. That's what my purpose is going to be here. Anyways, he writes, Pete does, that his company is 10% female that he started working for, and he's got a good career, but he says that's double the industry average. He didn't leave any commentary about that, but it's interesting to note because the second letter I read was referred to me by Greg, and it talks about women in the workplace and the problems with them. So, this Pete here is facing double the industry average in his profession of having women in the workplace. It represents a multitude of problems. Women in the workplace represent a threat, right? They represent a legal threat, and they represent a professional threat in a way that they can affect us, affect our jobs. They affect morale in a very negative fashion as well, either through their attitude or through their work ethic. Tough to have women in the workplace. All right, so then he says, you talk about stuff every couple of weeks, and my personal life. So he wants to know, tell us more about your gunmetal gray pickup truck. Well, it was a 65 Ford, had a 460 in it, had an RV cam, 750 CFM Holly on there, and had about 400 horses, 4-speed, and it was just a great truck. It was painted with an aircraft paint, some sort of emerald paint, and it was just beautiful. Just a great truck. 4-wheel drive. I had just a little bit bigger than stock tires on it, and a couple inches of lift, so it looked really good. And just a great pickup truck. I love that. It get about 10 miles going down the highway, but if you put your foot in the gas, and it get about 4 or 5. Just a fun truck. I had a 64 in high school that my sister managed to destroy while I was in boot camp. I went to boot camp, I got out of boot camp, and she had taken it up to Lake Tahoe and broke it and abandoned it. I was fucking pissed. Not only that, but my toolbox was in it. She just left that too. There's another good example of what happens to your shit when you don't lock it up, when you don't tie it up, when you don't keep it away from women. They'll just fucking use it and trash it. They don't care. Oh, that's just what happens. Where'd that dent come from? Well, you know, driving. Really? How come I can drive a car for years and years and it doesn't get fucked up? You drive it for a week and it comes back scratched up with dents. Ugh, God. All right, anyways, that's the gunmetal truck. It's just a beautiful truck, known as the Gray Ghost, where I drove around. Everyone knew that truck. It stood out. All right. How does one go about building a bomb-proof poured concrete monolithic house, and what are the costs? ICF is a insulated concrete form. Essentially, they were Legos, 4 foot. Well, this is 4 feet. 4 foot, and they were 16 inches tall, and the ones I got were wide. They were 16 inches wide. No, 12 inches wide. They had 2 inches of foam on each side, and so there was an 8-inch cavity in the middle, and they had like little tops and bottoms were Legos, so they'd lock in. And you stack them up, build your house, and they were hollow on the inside with plastic webbing, so you could snap in your rebar for reinforcement, and then it was open at the top, so you just used a concrete pump with the hose and you just fill it from the top. And we did about 3-foot lifts, meaning we'd fill it 3 foot at a time and work my way around the perimeter of the house. And then when you get to where we started, you just go up and you do the next lift and you go all the way around. In order to have holes for windows and doors, you just build a buck system, you know, wooden bucks, plywood, and you'd slide it in the hole so that the concrete couldn't fall in. And it was very expensive, you know, the cost of the forms, and then the foam itself act like a styrofoam cup. So you had styrofoam on the inside and the outside as insulation, full. And on this house, you know, they come wider, but I did 8 inches of concrete, and it was all poured at once, so there's no cold joints. Extremely strong. I had grade 60, which is ultra hard rebar, double curtains around windows and doors. I overbuilt this so that it was like a bomb shelter. And then all poured at once, it's curing inside of styrofoam, so it's not exposed to air except in the very top, meaning the Portland cement remains hydrated or wet, super hydrated, and that allows for a slow cure. Incredibly strong, super high PSI. And then, like I said, because of the earthquake seismic zone, I overbuilt the fuck out of it. I had I think 180 yards of concrete in the footings and the slab, and then the walls were 134 yards of concrete on the house, walls in the house and the garage. So, you know, I think I was paying $100 a yard. So we had somewhere around 20,000 in concrete, another 20,000 in forms. Yeah, I guess 60,000. We'll just throw that number out there to build a 4,500 square foot house. That's just the walls, and that's before anything else. Very expensive way to build, but you know, long term, if you're into bomb shelters, that was a good way to do it. All right. Did I rebuild the 7.3 myself? The answer is no. A friend of mine's a heavy-duty mechanic, was working for Granite Construction out of Sacramento at the time. He agreed to come up, help me pull the engine. We redid the heads, had them done in a shop in Sacramento, and then we rebuilt everything from block up. Had the block, everything cleaned, x-rayed, decked, set up, and then we rebuilt it. It was his professionalism, but I helped him. And even my son, who was 6 at the time, he got in there. You know, we let him do some work. He got to see how an engine is built, and it was interesting as you rebuild them, and they run just like they do from the factory. You can't really soup up a 7.3 really. You know, these new diesels, they're already souped up, you know, with the electronics and the injection systems and the turbos. Amazing engines. Okay, and Pete also asked about the guy who lost his spatula in the drawer. I can't remember. And then his final question is, you know, how do you live on a fifth wheel on your own property? Different areas of the country are different. out here, before you develop a piece of property, you want to see if the ground will perk for a septic system. If it does, you put in a septic system. You get a permit for that separate from your permit for your water well. You need to drill a well, make sure you've got water, and so then you've got a water well and a septic system, and you pull power in because you need to have power pulled in. Again, that's a separate permit, at least in the area I'm in. And then you just move on to it and hope, right, the county doesn't throw you out. It's a bit of a process of elimination, finding places where you can get away with it. No one wants to allow it, but yeah, they are trying to stop, as Pete says here, stop people from camping on their own land. Right? They don't want people camping. Well, you know, what they want and what they get is two different things. So you learn the rules and the ins and out of property development. You see where where you can do what you want, but they'll try and stop you, that's for sure. And he writes, I know that lately you've been complaining that the Whiskey and Stogie Fund has been growing too rapidly. Well, I don't know if it was a complaint, but you know, as soon as as soon as I turn around, my humidor's empty and the scotch is gone. So that would never be a complaint. But it's certainly a good thing to have you guys throwing dollars at me for stogies and scotch, and I really appreciate that. Wish I had time to drink with everyone. Now back to working with women and the problem with that. Greg referred me to a Reddit article, and I want to go through it real quick. I just did a bunch of highlighting of the important parts. This is about a military guy, and the military you can think of as a type of business.